over there. I don't know how to explain it. It makes no sense. So welcome to Tripod. Thank you so much for coming out on a dark night. At least it's not raining for once. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the collaborative show that we'll be doing probably in February, probably in January. Get those images to me of simple things. And by simple, I mean something not from nature, something either handmade or manufactured. And simple things are the things we have in our lives every day that we take for granted, like a light switch. It's just such a simple thing, but if you didn't have them, you'd be lighting candles all the time or something. So, Erik, do you by any chance have those images of 3 things I chose to show the audience tonight?
Oh, still working on that.
He's working on it. So far I've probably gotten about, 50 pictures of things. Some of them are duplicates. And in a minute he's going to put up 3 things I chose to show you. So what are some other simple things that some of you have sent?
A pen.
A pen?
Push pen.
Which type?
Oh, a writing pen, a 4-color Bic pen.
Okay. That's pretty good. What would we do without pens?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Oh, the handle. The flushing of the stool.
I couldn't hear that.
The toilet.
Toilet handle.
Handle.
Oh, the handle of the toilet. Now, you didn't send that to me. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I think that'd be good to see. Anyway, maybe I'll show you those 3 images at the next break. Okay, so first up tonight will be Bill Cupensie, and he is a poet. He's a professor of English at the University of Puget Sound, where he teaches literature and creative writing. These days, most of Bill's teaching energies and most of his own poetry focus on the climate crisis and climate justice. In particular, how writing can help you reimagine your relationship to this beautiful and irreplaceable planet and to each other. So he's showing his poetry, and Erin Collada will be singing the poetry, and she's a locally based mezzo-soprano who performs music from a wide variety of genres, with a special interest in early music, new music, and choral ensemble singing. Beyond performing, she is the music ministries coordinator and choir director at Shepherd of the Hill Presbyterian Church in Puyallup, and is a voice instructor at Pierce College. And then Greg Utes did the music for the poetry and the singing. And you guys have seen him perform here before. His compositions include 3 operas and numerous works for orchestra, band, choir, voice, and chamber ensembles. A member of the Pacific Lutheran University Music and Chinese Studies faculty since 1984, he has also directed PLU study abroad programs in China, Trinidad, and Tobago. So you 3 want to take over?
So I'll kind of introduce the project, and then I'll just turn it over to Bill and Erin, who will give you the real deal. I first met Bill at a gathering of Tacoma Poets Laureates about 8 or 9 years ago, I suppose, and heard him read a poem, and came up afterwards and said, as I frequently do to poets, so what do you think of the idea of somebody setting your poetry to music? And I've learned the hard way that some poets just say, nope, that's not happening. And then I don't. But Bill said, oh, that sounds interesting. So Bill and I worked together and chose 10 poems, all of them on an environmental message of some kind, or all about nature of some kind. And then I set them to music, and Erin Collada is a former student of mine and one of my favorite voices in the Pierce County area, and so she's actually performed a lot of my music. And so what we did was put together a kind of little traveling show in which Bill reads his poetry, so that you're like at a poetry reading. You get the oral art of poetry, and then we'll flash the printed version of the poem up on the screen and leave it there while Erin sings. And your job is to notice, first of all, how the poet laid out the lining and the various other structural features of the poem, and then how the composer attempted to respect and draw upon those features in a kind of a appropriate and respectful text setting, in a way. So I hope you enjoy that. So we're just going to do 2 of the 10 songs tonight. So I will turn it over to Bill and Erin.
I still haven't learned how to get the mask off without getting my glasses tangled. And usually my bicycle helmet too. Thank you, Lynn, for inviting us and bringing us together. I haven't seen Greg and Erin in a few years now, so it's nice to be back in this space and to be with everyone as well. This is a poem that I wrote quite a while ago. I don't think it requires much of an introduction, except to say that it's about a very productive apple tree that was in my backyard, the place I used to live. Ferment. Ferment drove through the host of ground apples, each a fistful, yellow-green half-globe facing skyward, spring hue razzing the heavens impermeable gray. But the earthward hemispheres would be pulpy brown, worm-stitched and mealy, liquefied past sugar, cider aged in the Rhine's wine sack. Weekly yard sweeps taught me this, balancing 3 or 4 boozy apples in each gloved hand. I'd stumble a dozen clowning trips to the compost bin. I thought of tales of elephants, drunk on spoiled fruit and must, charging villages, but my backyard fauna teetotaled. Raccoons nibbled only the good side up. Then December, I saw into the tree itself, which held a lone apple decayed to soil's verge, but dangling still on stem, defiant drunk, still on his feet, refusing against advice to call it quits.
Ferment drove through the host of ground
one of the really wonderful things about this collaboration was getting to hear Aaron sing to Greg's music poems that I, in many cases, had written a few years earlier. I wrote this poem again quite a few years ago, in fact. It's a sonnet about the end of the world, and I wish that it were less apropos than it is, but what can I say? It's called The Stirring. When the world begins to stir again, these highways will be the first to go. Grass will mortar their fine seams, trees buckle their crust. By the time snow has leavened our handiwork beyond reproach, some sad human part of me imagines that our retreat to modest hearths was willed, each mindful of the heft even children's boots bear. But I deceive myself. When the world begins to stir again, it mixes from scratch, borrows nothing from the shelf of our concern, our breathlessness, our sex's desperate alchemy. Grasp tight the iron ladle, stir us into night.
When the world begins to stir again, these highways will be the first to go. Grass will
like to, I have a very cool and groovy mask.
That's nice.
You can buy this at Promo Originals in South Tacoma. Handmade in their shop there. So if anybody has any comments?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to see you three working together so beautifully. Is there a way for people to know what you're doing next, or if you're doing something else together?
We don't have any plans for other projects at the moment, although that could change on a dime. But I personally hope we get this show back up on the road. It was interrupted by all kinds of things, pandemics and babies and operas and all kinds of things. But yeah, I would really like to get this back out on the road, so we'll let you know.
Great. Anybody have any questions?
Did you, is that a band that you have, or did you play all the instruments, or?
That is my mighty computer. One of the things that we all have learned to do is, well, the software has gotten better, the sounds have gotten better, and we've all learned to sort of tweak the software so that it sounds as good as it's ever going to sound. It's never a replacement for a real band, and every time I play these things for people, people are always saying, oh, could you do a live version? And of course one could, but the cool thing about computer MIDI sound libraries is that you can decide on a whim, you know what this needs? It needs a contrabassoon. And you just add one. So you don't have to hire one, you just add one. So that's kind of magic. Well, thank you very much.
So first of all, thank you so much for coming to support this kind of talent. And you can see that all three presenters have gone to a lot of work tonight to show you what they do and to play music for you too. There is an email sign-up list on that table back there. If you want to be on the tripod email list and you aren't already on it, please sign that. Mario, do you want to come up here and make an announcement?
Why, certainly. I'd be happy to. Thank you. How about a big hand for Lynn? For putting this together. Keep it going. I'm not over there yet. I'm fine. I'm going to go all the way around. Yeah, well, the reason Lynn asked me to come up here is that our church, the center here, is doing a special event coming up on the 3rd of December. And it's at the Elks Club over on Cedar. And you can get tickets. I have tickets tonight if you want them. But they're $75. It's a fundraiser for this wonderful facade here, this beautiful building. So if anybody, and we're doing songs from Camelot, from Spamalot, and some original music that has been written by some of the people from this church. I'm playing Merlin, so you don't want to miss that. In fact, I don't want to miss it either. So anyway, it's a really nice show, and it's going to be a silent auction, a live auction, raise the paddle, some other things too, and lots of really good food, and some excellent entertainment. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And give Lynn another round of applause.
Okay, I want to draw attention to Erik. He's our tech. He's up there. If you turn around, you can see him up there. So Erik manages to upload the images on the projector, and in this case tonight, figure out all this music and sound equipment with the help of Doug Mackey, of course. So Erik, by any chance, did you find those simple object images?
Still attempting to download them. I've got to do that at the same time I'm running everything else, and it really makes it difficult. How about by the end of the show?
Okay. Okay, Okay, in the meantime, I'm still accepting images. You can email them to me. You've got my email address because of those tripod notices I sent you. So don't forget, they're very simple things, just things we couldn't live without, like a wine bottle opener. I haven't gotten that image yet. Okay, next is Rosemary Ponicante. She's an award-winning writer. She used to be the Trib art critic. You probably read her work. A musician, a multimedia storyteller, and festival director. She has lived on 3 continents with a career ranging from professional classical, double bassist, and church organist to magazine editor, newspaper journalist, and digital content creator. Currently, she serves as a public information officer for Metro Parks Tacoma. Rosemary created and directs 2 free art festivals, Tacoma Ocean Fest, you've probably seen the ads for that, and maybe you've even been, and the Tacoma Light Trail, which is coming up this winter. She creates her own compositions on looping bass inspired by, and often including nature. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what she does. She's also an aerialist. Rosemary, am I correct? I don't know where she is. Anyway, Rosemary.
Thank you, Lynn. I've got a bit of a reset, so talk amongst yourselves. I can see Erik looking at me like, are you going to do that? I did it. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Great. So I'm just going to tune and then I'm going to... Okay. So I have to admit that when Lynn first asked me to present slides of my cliff jumping at tripod and play double bass, I was a bit worried. Not only had I never done that before, but the 2 things just seemed very different to me, different in my own life and just different in general. And then when I heard what company I was keeping tonight, I was also worried because I'm not a professional musician anymore. I am not a professional poet. I am not a professional videographer or photographer, and I'm definitely not a professional cliff jumper, although neither of them are anyway. And yeah, it seemed scary. But what I am is a professional storyteller, and I thought there's a story here. So I got my courage together, and I tried something new, and I discovered that I was a better person for it. And I discovered that that is the story of cliff jumping as well, and many other things. So here is that story, Waterfall Music. Oh, and I should explain. Don't start it yet, Erik. in case anybody's interested, I actually don't have music here. This is just the words that I wrote, which I did not memorize. Next time. I create what I'm playing right now through a looping pedal, which you'll see me operate with my foot. and that layers the sound up, and then I improvise over the top of that. Start out by jumping waterfalls. I didn't begin brave. Growing up, I was lucky in a place surrounded by blue, swimmable water. Camping trips, canoe pools, and the dancing delight of endless waves in a city with 10 beaches. We jumped waves, jumped off diving boards. But I stared, heart pounding, at the 10-meter tower, knowing I could never, would never be the person who could make that jump. Swimming wild also meant family. And then came the time when my own little family wanted to jump off the rock into the deep cobalt waters of Crater Lake. Icy, and such a long way down. Actually, only about 10 feet, but it seemed higher. My daughter, 14, jumped in, toweled off, grabbed her phone to film us. My son, 11, did a backflip. Me, I thought about the danger. The cold water, the rocks. But so many others had jumped it before us, were still out there, lounging, laughing, clearly not dead, and clearly able to save me. Come on, called my son. You can do it, Mum. Hurry up, called my daughter. I took a deep breath, let it out, and leapt. Sing her music of water, that swift plunge into a cold embrace. Sing of air left behind like a faded memory, and the exalted rush of silky fingers down, down through jade, aqua, emerald, turquoise, sapphire, a world of effervescent sparkles. Sing of that strange light, alien and enticing, and of that internal moment between the falling and the upward thrust, when your weighted body dissolves into the silence. That's when it started, this quest for falling. I was 45, ridiculously old to be jumping off cliffs with teenagers. After I summoned up all my courage and leapt 10 feet into the Green River Gorge, after depth checks, of course, a friend laughed. Oh wow, I haven't done that since I was 15. My 15-year-old self shrank a little, then expanded as she realized her second chance. Cautious, excited, we explored our world. Found new places to swim, went a little higher. At a Puget Sound dock, my son flipped off 15 feet, then 20. And coached by a counselor, I launched off a flying trapeze into the seductive summer depths of high tide. And me too, stepping off a 15-foot cliff into the blissful caress of Paradise Pool, west of Sydney. That was me too, jumping off the Leavenworth Bridge and off a rope swing in British Columbia and out of a tree on Orcas Island and 18 feet into the crystal pool at Watcombe Falls, while my son climbed higher and higher. A 25-foot gainer, a 30-foot double-back layout, a 50-foot waterfall, and then a 60-foot straight jump into the eggshell blue heaven of Canada's Howe Sound. Oh, the color. To plunge into aqua green gold, a shimmering palette, mirroring trees and rocks and sky and the whole world hidden deep. To enter that color is to become the world completely. Without words, without time, simply a part of this wild nature, and painted for a second by its brush. Was I scared? Yes, every time. I was vigilant. We dove every time to check the depth. We did our research. But every time I feared that it would go wrong, that we'd be swept away by tide, current, injury, death. You think of all this poised on the edge beside your 13-year-old son as he launches off a cliff. And he feels fear too. They all do. These young men and women who became our cliff jumping crew, our safety, guidance, friendship, they all feel fear. Not my fear, a middle-aged woman facing down 25 feet, but their own. Stomach clenching, real. And yes, people die cliff jumping. I don't make light of it. Mostly, they're inexperienced, drunk, or careless. People say, how can you let your kid do this? I say, that's why I go too. And if you bring safety checks and support, then when you meet fear on a cliff edge, you can stare her down and make your own decision. Besides, the hardest part is standing on the edge. Once you've jumped, there's no going back. And so it went. We bought wetsuits, found hidden spots unmarked on maps. Towering walls of columnar basalt, canyons of ferny mosses, red cliffs, cracked like giant faces, and waterfalls cascading endlessly in fierce, misty beauty. My son was up to 70 feet now, swing casting off bridges, full twists, triple backflips, double gainers. We traveled to Vermont, land of secret quarries, and I jumped 25 feet to be the only swimmer in a pool half a mile wide, until my daughter jumped in too. Then 30 feet at a lagoon south of Sydney, emerging through breathless bubbles into gum-scented air. And the sharp Australian sun. We jumped into Blue Pool, Oregon, its icy sapphire depths still as a fairy tale, where water turns heroes, and we ducked into gold. And we ducked 3 feet into a snowy stream on Snoqualmie Pass to usher in the new year. Montana bridges in summer sunshine, rain-drenched winter Washington pools, sun-filled lakes with rocky climbouts, snowy glaciers, and pounding salt surf. Does an eagle feel like this? Striding, soaring, diving between elements. Without wings, I fly. Without fins, I swim, passing into a world beyond for the briefest second of eternity. A window opened for my soul to breathe the air of another, wilder existence. Where does it end? So far it hasn't, although I'm getting older. I'm 50 and have jumped 42 feet into the mighty Columbia River. I found the courage to leap over the rushing edge of the lower Lewis River, some 10 feet higher than that long ago diving tower. I never thought this would be possible, this version of myself. While my son tumbles 80, 90, 100 feet with breathtaking grace, I have found my own better self. In facing fear, I've leapt through it, surrounded danger with safety. Discovered that braveness comes from being brave again and again, whether you're on a cliff or living a life. And above all, I've discovered that in trying to be the person my kids think I am, I've become the person I dreamed of being. finished at the same time. Thank you all for, and thank you, Lynn, for giving me the opportunity and the chance to be brave. Any questions of any kind? Yeah.
Have you given this slideshow before?
Nope. You're witnessing history, folks. I've not only never given that slideshow before, I have never, there's a genre of bass music where you play and speak at the same time. It's a very small genre. I've contributed to one part of it, but I got into that in my 20s, and it's kind of fun, although challenging. And, but this is the very first time I've improvised and spoken, and also made a video and had to keep pace with it. So yes, first time. He's heard it. They all heard it, and I'm pretty sure they're not watching the live stream. Maybe my daughter is. They got really sick of it. It's like, can you stop playing that thing? It's not a waterfall. They're not all waterfalls. No, she was 13, not 14 or whatever it was, and you got it, getting the story wrong. Why are you even playing that? It's boring. He's a drummer. What can I say? No, my family has heard it, but I haven't heard any comments other than that yet. When I get home. Yes.
So Rosemary, you shared that part of maybe the drive to keep jumping is part of getting in touch with yourself as part of you. Any other thing to share about what drives you or why to keep jumping?
To keep jumping specifically, it really is about being brave, honestly, and starting from just 10 feet when I realized that, if I did this safely and I did all the safety things, then I wouldn't die, and actually I was brave enough to do it. And so that is part of it. It's just making me braver, because it really does carry over into all sorts of real life situations. Getting out into these beautiful spots in nature, hanging out with my son. I'm not going to minimize it. He's a great kid. He's 17, and what other 17-year-old wants their mother to come and hang out with them and their friends? So I'm doing that as long as I can. I love the feeling. I don't jump from a high enough height to really enjoy the way down. It's more like, okay, oh shoot, there's the water. How am I landing? Okay. Whereas I hear from my son that when you jump 100 feet, you've got plenty of time to look at the scenery. So there's some of that too, that physical enjoyment. And I love swimming and, being in this beautiful place and kind of being part of it. Yeah,
I just want to thank you, Rosemary, for posting these guys on Instagram. I enjoy them immensely when I see them, so please keep doing that.
Oh, thank you.
Music.
Yeah, thank you. At some point I'll get too old. Yeah, Christy.
I also have really just loved seeing your, the videos were enough to make me say, I think I've said this before, that you're my hero. But to hear the narration and hear more about why you're doing it and what it feels like is just too much. It's so beautiful.
Oh,
And I really
thank you.
love hearing the story, and the last part of it there where you said bravery and about being brave. Can you repeat those? It was just the last few lines that were just
Yeah.
Like that too.
what is that?
I discovered that braveness comes from being brave again and again, whether you're on a cliff or living a life.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, because thanks for pointing that out, Christy, and you're my hero too in so many other ways. Yeah, it's kind of like I'm glad people get inspired by this, because it could just seem like a foolish pastime to launch yourself off a cliff and maybe get injured in the process and take up valuable emergency resources. And we did scale it back during COVID, don't worry, for that reason. But also, I want to show people that this is a really important thing because we're all called to be brave in our lives and do new things. Hello, new things. And by practicing doing it, it's just like music, right? All the musicians agree with me. You do something over and over, it gets easier, although you're not maybe perfect at it. And if you never try anything new, you're never going to get better at it. So there's that part of it too. But yeah, people say to me and my son, oh, you must be fearless. And I'm like, no, I'm not fearless. I'm just brave. I'm trying to get braver. Yeah. Anybody? I feel like I'm hogging the stage and Doug's like raring to go and make a roaring sound.
I'm terrified.
And yeah.
It's another beautiful saying, and I hope you really get it, and it resonated with me. Something about in trying to become or being the person my kids thought I was,
Yeah, in trying to be the person my kids think I am, I've become the person I dreamed of being.
That is so beautiful.
Thank you. But it's not just kids. It's not. I'll put it on my blog, rosemaryponicante.com. No, it's there. Yeah, it's not just kids. It's anybody that cares about you, that wants to see you be a better person, right? And sometimes you have to rise to that and say, yes, okay, you think I can do this, so I'll do it, whatever it is. And then you discover that's what you've always dreamed of doing. Yeah. Not kidding. Anne Darling knows that tower at New Lantern Baths, don't you? Yeah. And I grew up, and you look at that, and she's from the same town as I am. And yeah, you think, oh my gosh, who would ever jump off that? Yeah, just, you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I too am one of those people that plays the bass, performs by themselves.
Good.
And it is a very small niche. Jay Leonhardt from New York has a whole solo bass show that he's done. He was out here in West Seattle at this place has a giant Wurlitzer organ.
Oh my God.
Anyway, but there's a very few. It's Esperanza Spalding.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're aware of.
Yes.
She had some cool videos by herself before she got really well known and took them all down.
Oh.
But I loved those because I was doing the same thing and I was terrified at first.
Yeah. Have you played Failing by, what's his name, Tom Felton?
No.
Okay, it's called Failing. It's very similar to this, only there's no slideshow, so mine's better. But no, it's a very contemporary atonal piece. It's like 12-tone really, but it just gets more and more complicated. But it's about failing and how as musicians we're all petrified of failing. And this piece is designed to make you fail. You just can't do it without actually failing. And it's about like getting over that and moving beyond. So yeah, there you go.
Anyway, I compliment you. It takes a lot of, that's another bravery that nobody else mentioned. I thought that should
Thank you.
be mentioned.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do you need the, you don't need the stand, Doug? No, Doug doesn't need the stand.
That's fine.
Do you see that egg carton? That's a John Carlton submission. So what would we do without egg cartons? It's such a simple design. Next. Chris Wooten sent this to me. Everybody recognize this? Next. One more thing, this is an architectural or an engineering scale. It's 3-sided. And in my past, I was an architectural draftsman, and you simply couldn't do your work without a scale, a very handy thing to have. So I'm just, so impressed by the talent we have here tonight. I'm just practically speechless. Our next presenter is Doug Mackey, and he has presented many times to you guys. And I'm going to read his bio, which you guys practically know by heart. He was born in Tacoma and fronts the band Mr. Blackwatch, who play regularly in the area. They are ridiculous, this is his words. but are almost finished with their forthcoming concept album. Doug owns Moonyard Recording Studio. If you want to start a podcast or record your music, find him on Facebook. He also co-owns and is the producer of Channel 253, a listener-supported libtard, which I had to look that up. That's a contemptuous term for a person with left-wing political views, in case you didn't know. It's a podcast network. So sign up and be a member. It's only $40 a year. One member perk is access to his podcast Off the Record. Most importantly, he and his spouse Lynn own Larry, their female cat. I want to say also, Doug is showing the work of Andrew Dimmitt, who is here tonight, right there in front of me. And I don't think he's going to speak, but he's a talent you will really appreciate. Doug?
Sure. Thank you.
You know who the bravest person is in this room tonight? Lynn made mention of the forthcoming concept album. It's a 15-song album about a girl named Mary. So I will play the second song on the album, just with an acoustic guitar. Hopefully I can do this fairly well. Shots to the sun spins them round, had God already gone. She starts singing this song, the pieces I'm turning around, turning around, turning around. They're angels I'm turning around, turning around, turning around. Wonders if God could ever turn this around. When a family is coming unwound, she'll turn it around, turn it around. When her father's nowhere to be found, she'll turn it around, turn it around. When her mother drinks till she's drowned, turn it around, turn it around. She will find a way out of this countdown and turn it around, turn it around. So if you've ever seen my band play before, we play a bunch of goofy, silly stuff. It's this comedy, ridiculous act. But we're working on this record that is this concept album about this girl named Mary, pretty much from the time she's born until she dies. And because I'm a guy, I wrote it from mostly a male's perspective of were you having trouble with this too?
With the last one, yeah, it was working fine up till then.
Oh, there's the cow, which is a feature of the film. Anyway, so it's time to put this album out after 30 odd years of making it, and I wanted to have some cover art. So I went to my friend Kevin, who's in the band The Fun Police. I said, "Who makes your guys' awesome art?" And he said, "Oh, it's Andrew Tinney." And so we talked about Andrew, and so I contacted Andrew, and I asked him if he would do it, and he said he would. So I gave him a recording of the album as it was at that time, and a list of all the lyrics. Oh, and a picture of a cow, because we have songs about cows. And one song is called "See the Cow," because can you see the cow there? Can you not see who cannot see the cow? Okay, it's okay if you can. You have 2 ears up there, and then 2 eyes, and then a snout down here. Okay, now that you've seen the cow, you will always see the cow. Unless you have a stroke or something, you will see the cow. So that was one image that I gave to Andrew, along with the lyric sheet. These are all the lyrics. And a list I made of the objects that are mentioned in the lyrics of the songs. So I asked him to represent all of these in one image, and which is like 64 different things or something. Easy, right? So so he began drawing things. I'd like to bring Andrew up right now. Andrew, you come on up. Andrew Dimmitt. So I'm just going to flip through some of these images, and you can go ahead and say what you did when I handed you this music and you started working.
Yeah, my first impression, he hands me this list of 60-some things to put on an album cover, and I'm a little intimidated. And then I listened to the album, and it's like a work of urban shamanism. It's a journey. In the beginning of I don't want to open, like I said, anyone's presents before Christmas relates to what the album's like, but it's cyclical. The first song, by the end of the album, it just rotates back to the first song, and you're almost reborn, and you listen to the album again, and it's like science fiction. You listen to it differently a second, a third time through. It's a beautifully written piece of storytelling. And
See why I brought him out?
No, I felt like really honored to I don't want to give it away about Mary. Like, her life is hard, and so I felt responsible for her promise that she makes in the album to everyone. And despite all the grimness, but it rotates and it turns around. It's just beautiful. It was a joy to work on this album. Yeah. I've had a lot of fun working on albums. Anyone wants album art?
So as we go along here, we'll gradually sort of show pictures that we'll show you the final product here.
And he keeps getting a hold of me every 3 days. Hey, could you put this in here too?
So that's one of the lyrics. Our fates are of our own making. Click, click, click. They're angels that you heard in that song that I played. Now what I'm going to do here in a little bit is I'm going to play you the same song as it's recorded with the band. And that's my drummer Joe Wood, Kevin Fraser, bass player, and then Natalie McPherson, 11-year-old girl who sang the part of a young Mary, and then I did the rest of the stuff on it and produced it in my studio. I mentioned at one point she's referred to as Venus, so we drew Mary as Venus. And I wanted the cow jumping over a moon, of course, because the cow is, the cow's got to jump over the moon. So Andrew had a great idea of actually making the cow into the moon.
Yeah, he put so much stuff into what he wanted to have on the album cover. The only way to make sense of it was to go old school, like Tibetan mandala yantras, you know, where you have the earth in the middle and it's surrounded by the heavens, and the heavens are surrounded by the dream world. And there's the only way to do it was concentric circles. And because of the concentric circles, I get a hold of them like, you know what? I've seen a lot of albums in my life that have like elements that are alchemical, zodiac, things like that. But I've yet to see an album that had a full-on natal chart on it. And it's like, well, let's put 2 of them on there, you know? And so, yeah, synastry, as they call it.
So he does all these images by hand. There's a place in the album where this woman has gone through tremendous trouble, and she eventually actually gets married. There's a lyric about barking at the same old tree. There's a diamond ring, which is referred to more than once in the album. Earlier on, when Mary is very, very cynical about love, and then later when she actually gets married. So all these images. So as we move closer, so I will keep clicking through these, and I will attempt to play the recording as it stands right now. This is probably going to be kind of loud because it's rock music, and rock music is supposed to be loud.
I heard it.
The steeple is raised to the ground, stained glass broken. Mary's amazed by the sound, won't bow down. Shouts to the sun, spins them round, had God already gone. Start singing this song. The pieces I'm turning around, turning around, turning around. The angels I'm turning around, turning around, turning around.
so this is the cover and this is the back cover. And these are the songs listed. And because they are cyclical, it's meant to go front to back. It just keeps going around. And we have the space alien is our sort of Mr. Blackwatch, so it's our mascot. Yes, sir.
Manual or digital?
Manual then digital, like I did all the pieces separately and just jigsaw them together digitally. And then a lot of color tweaking digitally too.
Yeah, I wanted to have it so that the album art would be as much, you could make as much of an investment looking at that as you would in listening to the record or reading
Yeah,
the lyrics.
it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
Is your album vinyl or?
That's a good question. It's 64 minutes. It's a bad length.
It's hilarious too, the 64 thing. He gets a hold of me out of the blue. He doesn't know that I've spent the last half a dozen years obsessing over the number 64, and he wants his album to be specifically 64 minutes long. He doesn't even know. It's hilarious. I just have to laugh, you know, the I Ching, standard genetic code, all this stuff. And I've back engineered. I know it fits over like a glove, but obsessions. But yeah, so synergy, synchronicity, he gets a hold of me. Yeah, 64. I'm like, bruh.
So it'll probably just be a CD, but I've got a friend who says, put out a double album, but 64 minutes is a bad length. It's just, that'd be 32 minutes per. It's 16 minutes aside, I don't know. Any other questions? Yeah.
Sorry, when is it out? I feel like I missed that.
Probably this spring.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a couple more vocals to get on it, but a couple people, and they're already scheduled to do it. Then I'll mix it and master it and put it out.
Are you gonna put out the prints?
Well, I think this, if it's a CD, this will be like 9 panels of a CD panel, so it'll be about that big. So you could fold it out and probably the lyrics on the other side. So, and if it's an album, of course, it'll be an album.
Just cram a small CD into a
Yeah.
big 12-inch album cover.
Yeah, this is a lot to put on, you know.
You can also sell posters for merch and both of you make bank.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks, right there. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
You betcha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. The talent's been amazing tonight. And I hope you folks in the audience realize they just perform free. They don't get paid or anything. And the $3 donation we collect goes to Erik, our tech, and for the small amount of rent we pay here. So next month, I think it's December 17th, we'll have 3 performers as usual. One of them will be Palmer Scholars, and that's a nonprofit that raises money to send young black kids to college. And then we'll have Chelsea Berry, a clothing designer, will show her work. And then we'll have Chris Spadafor, sculptor, showing his work. He's working on a project with Diane Hansen right now. It's a horse, and if you're on Facebook, maybe you've seen those images. So what am I forgetting? Thank you so much for coming tonight. What, Becky?
Yeah, those are from Laurel Lise in North Seattle.
Okay. I'm in a show with Cheryl DeGroot and Reed Osaki. Those are both Tacoma artists. And the show is in West Seattle at Lauren Lucan's studio. And I'll be selling sweater coats and some other fabric items. Reed, of course, does clay. Cheryl does jewelry. And this is the last ever sale at Lauren's because they're moving to Merced, California. So we're going to miss them. Anyway, if you want to know more about that, email me and I'll send you the invitation. And don't forget to sign that email list if you want to get these tripod announcements. Thank you so much.